Hi, Cherie. Welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure having you with us here today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
It
I'm
is.
excited to talk about food.
Oh, and we're going to talk we're going to talk about food, and we're going to talk about a lot more than that, right? As we were kind of chatting about off air, and we've had some time to discuss some things off air, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation because I think we're going to dive into, well, first of all, we are going to be discussing seed oils. And we obviously, most of the population, or I should say a good amount of the population today, we know that seed oils are not ideal. And I think more and more people are becoming informed, but I don't think that people know a lot of the back end or the deeper story. And what I am going to love about this conversation is that we're not just going to be discussing this from a surface level perspective, right? We're going to go into exploring history and industry influence and food and the disconnection that as a society, we've sort of, been disconnected from food. And so I am really excited, and you are the perfect person to talk to about this. So before we get going, why don't you give us just a little background on your history, however, much detail you would like to give us, because you've got quite a journey behind you so far.
Oh, it's been a journey for sure that led me here
Yeah.
to this moment in time. But I started off really sick in my 20s, chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And I had to sleep about 12 hours a day. I was so tired. I'd wake up tired. I felt like I had the flu all the time. It was just horrible. No doctor knew what to do. So I thought, okay, I've got to figure it out for myself. So I went to some health food stores, talked to people there, discovered my diet was horrible. I love fast food and junk food, and I was a sugar addict and I hated vegetables. No wonder I was sick.
Oh.
And then my mom had died when I was 6 years old of breast cancer. So I had some emotional stuff as well. And I discovered juicing. They talked about the power of as primarily vegetable juices for healing the body. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get my first juicer and I'm going to give it a shot. I went on a 5 day vegetable juice fast, and on day five, my body expelled a tumor about that size with blue blood vessels attached that looked like somebody cut them. Something had. I call it nature scissors or God scissors. Phytonutrients like luteolin and apigenin and visitin, there are a whole bunch of them that cut off angiogenesis, which is the growth of blood vessels to tumors. And they had done their work, and I saw it right before my eyes. And I think I saw it so quickly because I was so young, and my body still was robust enough to just get in there and fight. So I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up well because I got rid of this thing. And that's kind of how we think in the West, do this and get rid of it and go on. I didn't wake up well, and I was on my journey of healing. And I call that a two-step forward and a one-step back, um, detoxing and cleansing and rejuvenating. But one day I woke up 3 months later and it was like, oh, somebody gave me a new body in the middle of the night. I felt fabulous. And so I thought, okay, I can go back to Southern California from Colorado, where I was at my dad's house, and join my friends and back to work and all the good things, and out for pizzas and cheeseburgers and fries. And whoa, my symptoms started coming back. That's when it dawned on me, oh, this has got to be a way of life. And that was the new road that I started walking. And you have to do a lot of self-talk with yourself about your favorite foods and things you want to give up, but you just can't seem to get there. And I was on that journey. But I wanted to be a credible source of information because I thought this is the most powerful healing I've ever experienced. So I went back to school and got a master's degree in whole foods nutrition. And that has led me to today. 36 books later, I'm still teaching.
That's amazing. I was going to mention the load of books that you have written, and it's really quite. I mean, it's what a accomplishment, and it shows your passion for education and teaching, and that is no small feat. So yeah, congratulations on all of that. And you said something that just Well, first of all, I want to go back to the whole tumor thing for a sec. Okay, because that's pretty you don't hear a story like that every day. And it
Mhm.
really points to something that's discussed a lot on this show with, multiple experts that come on, and it's just your body is made to heal and it knows what to do given the right environment and given the right tools or circumstances, or sometimes it's about taking away, not necessarily adding in. And
Mhm.
in your situation, a lot of it was, kind of like, let's just take a break from all of the stuff that has, was being put into the body. And your body went and did that. And I feel like what a testimony to the fact that the body really is so miraculously designed that it knew what to expel as soon as the environment was the right environment, right?
It's
So,
amazing. Our
yeah,
bodies are amazing. And yes, I both took away and put in
yeah,
live, whole, beautiful, raw food in the form of juice that my body could just absorb right away, get it right into the cells, do its job, and then I took away all the garbage. There was no junk food, no fast food, no sugar, none of that bad stuff. Boy, when you do those two things, your body can just hop to and say, "Okay, we're going to heal."
I know. I know. It's wild too because and we're going to get into some of this, but we're so conditioned from such a young age to just go for like a remedy. And a lot of times those remedies are pharmaceuticals and so forth. And it's so crazy because that's never really the answer for healing anything, right? It's just something that's sort of masking a condition. Or, there are some instances where pharmaceuticals are necessary and life saving. But
Hmm.
in so many cases, it's just like all we have to do is give the body the space, and like I said, just the space and give it some time and patience, and it will do exactly what it is designed to do. And you know it, it's so much easier to grab a pill or to even something holistic, right? Like, oh, grab a modality or some, and nothing against it. I love different modalities, but
Hmm.
it's the hard things are what are what's usually necessary. Like, let's change food, let's look at what you're doing in life, let's look at the stress you're under, all the things. And so it's just a perfect example, and it's hard to hear because most people want something quick and easy, but it's usually not the quick and easy thing.
Isn't that for sure? We all want quick and easy. Take these two pills and you'll feel better in the morning, or go on this round of antibiotics for 7 days and you'll be well. And you don't have to do anything else. It just doesn't work that way to get to the root of the problem. So, yes, I love what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's like I said, it's like a beat the dead horse conversation over here. We've had it so many times I almost feel like I don't want to say it, but it is true. And like I said, there's a time and a place for pharmaceuticals or supplementation or, whether it's functional, holistic, conventional. But a lot of times, I think that we overcomplicate things,
Mm.
myself included, as I'm learning along my own journey. And it's amazing to have so much at our fingertips for um, for healing, when the time is appropriate. But sometimes, like I said, it really just is about uh, giving the body space and time. And a lot of times it is removing what's making the body sick. So anyway, that could be a whole hour conversation just right there.
Yes.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about your new book, or I should say, let's get into some of the information because you have a new book that's just come out, "The Truth About Seed Oils." Yes, yes.
It
And
is.
I want to preface this, okay, and let our listeners know some things. So I, at first, when I heard about your book and your work, I thought, well, I mean, is this really something that we have to discuss on the show? Because a lot of listeners, like I said in the beginning when we opened, they already know, right? Like they know seed oils aren't good. And there's so much information out here now. Social media has done a work on society,
Hmm.
but there's a lot that people don't know. And I can't wait to get into this because there is even things that I didn't know about history and different interesting talking points surrounding seed oils. And so, for just in general, I would love to first get into sort of like a 101, like what seed oils really are, common examples, things, information about oxidation and stability. And then we can kind of get into the history because that's really, I think, where so much of the surprising juices,
Yes.
you know. So why
Yes.
don't you, yeah, just take it from here and give us a good lowdown on what they are and also what's happened along the way.
So people are confused oftentimes, like, what is seed oil? What is vegetable oil? Are they the same thing? Yeah, they are. But there are no vegetables in the oils. So they were initially called vegetable oil when they were first rolled out for slick marketing. Because who doesn't want more vegetables in your life? And vegetable oil sounds great. And it looks clear and clean. It's the new modern oil, is how they rolled it out onto the market. And no odor, no taste, can sit on the shelf forever, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. That should be a red flag right there.
Huh.
But it was about 2010 when the name started changing. I don't know where and who it started with, but they started calling it seed oils, and that's appropriate. Industrial seed oils is really appropriate because these guys are worked on in factories. So I'm going to name them what they are first so we can just get a 101 little chart going. And I've got it in the book. If you if you want to have a chart, it's in the book. So it's canola, which is rapeseed, and we were told for so long that was one of our healthy oil choices, and it's not. Grapeseed oil was another one we were told was so healthy. It's not. Soy, corn, safflower, sunflower, those we were told were really healthy. They're not. Peanut and rice bran oil and cottonseed oil. That's your list. Some of them, people call them the hateful eight plus a couple, whatever you want to call them. They're not good for you. They are, I call them the silent killers. And we're going to get into that more as we go. Why are they so bad for us? But these guys, let's give a little lesson on how they're prepared. A lot of people know about this. High heat, first of all. So we were taking big vats of seeds, crushing them up, submitting them to very high heat, like 500 degrees, maybe more, to break them down. Oh, they're getting broken down, all right. They're fragile. These are polyunsaturated fatty acids. These little seeds are very, very fragile. High temperatures just there, without all the rest of what they do to it, is going to create toxic byproduct like aldehydes and lipid peroxides and carcinogens, all sorts of nasty stuff that harm our cells, that get right down to the cellular level and hurt us. So that's just step one. Then it goes through hexane, a very caustic chemical is poured in to help extract the last little drop of oil from the seeds. We've also got degumming agents, defoamers, bleachers. By the time it gets through all of that, it's like, yikes, we do not have a healthy product left at all. I read somebody's article recently that said, how could we possibly believe that this industrial oil, originally used on machinery and during World War II on aircraft and ships, be good for us? How could it in any way contribute to our health? Well, it doesn't. It contributes to our disease. But anyway, it's been rolled out, poured into bottles. Usually they're plastic. So, welcome microplastics are in the oils as well, and rolled out onto the grocery store shelf and into manufacturing. And it's in so many products that we buy in boxes and packages, from our chips and crackers and mayonnaise and salad dressing and box foods and those little dinners you pop in your microwave. But that's not where it stops. It's used big time in restaurants because it's cheap, it's easy to store. You don't have to refrigerate it. It doesn't have an odor, and it makes the food taste juicy, moist. It looks good. So it's in everywhere, just about in restaurants. There are a few now that have gone to no more seed oils, and they proudly advertise that. Like Steak and Shake is one of the restaurants, and there are many, and there are smaller ones throughout the country. But these oils are used pervasively in manufacturing and restaurant cooking. So we're bombarded by them day in and day out. And we don't even know they're there a lot of times. So I'm saying we've got to be wise shoppers. We can either shop with our phone, take a picture and blow it up because everything's a little teeny print right now. They're smart, they're onto us.
Yep.
Or I've got a little magnifying glass with a light. Press my little light. I'm like Sherlock Holmes in the grocery store. I'm reading labels all the time, but we need to know what's in there. And if it says vegetable oil, which it often does, it doesn't even tell you it's like soy or canola. It'll just say vegetable oil. That's usually a blend. Avoid it. Avoid it as much as you can. But there's some smart manufacturers who are getting on board now, and there are olive oil chips, avocado oil chips, beef tallow chips, crackers with good oil like olive oil. There are some salad dressing choices on the market. You can make your own, and it's so much better. But there's like Bragg's vinaigrette or sesame ginger. There's Newman's Own one that just has olive oil and vinegar. But we have to be wise shoppers and realize that this stuff is horrible for us, and its history is pretty dark.
Yes, it is. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But I just have to know. I mean, I'm shaking my head because I've been on this train for, I've been on this train for several years. And I've probably, at one point, I was extreme. I was probably really extreme where I was like, I just don't even want to go out. I don't want to even go to a restaurant, because I'm just like, and it's like a 90-10 situation
Yeah.
for me now, which I think is appropriate and it is probably healthy because mentally, you can create some issues as well when you're just like afraid of life. And so,
Yeah.
and that's not the point of this discussion. But I crack up because I think of my family a lot, particularly my parents who, they've heard me talk with them, or not heard me, they've endured, I should say, my words over the years, with packaged foods and seed oils. And my mom is she's a cook. I mean, she's a great cook and she's cooked fresh whole foods in the home for a long time. But there's also a lot of packaged foods and things that are unassuming, right? Like
Mhm.
croutons that go into the salad or crackers from Costco or
Mhm.
whatever. Like it could be nuts from the market or Costco, so and so forth. And it's like when I'm over at their house and I open up the pantry and I see, out, and this is after years of talking about this stuff, and I'm like, you guys, and I don't say a whole lot anymore, but I'm like, we've talked about this so many times. Oh, well, and it's like the response from people that I hear, not just with my folks, but with a lot of people is, well, it's just a little. It's just a little, like we stress about so much. Like it's fine. And it's like, well, yeah, it is just a little. But a little day after day after day, it ends up
Mhm.
filling up that bucket a bit more than we think. And so
That-
it's hard because, and this is one of the questions I'm going to ask you, but with the history and with heart disease and all that stuff, it's like there's a lot of non-coincidental things that have happened when this stuff started rolling out, and there's a lot of lying that's taken place as to what's caused what, and these oils are so responsible for so many health conditions that have just exploded over the last century, let's say, right?
Yes.
And it's really hard because I don't think that people really want to digest the information because that requires change and that can be tough. And so, again, I say this just in conversation. I don't necessarily have the answers other than balance is key, but balance with awareness. And so, I would love for you to sort of go into the history a little bit, and also I would love for you to touch on not only the cottonseed oil history, but also the Crisco history, because I think that that is really important, and that's a really interesting addition to this conversation.
It is. So we're looking back now to the turn of the century before last, late 1800s, very early 1900s. Cotton was a big crop in America, and we had a byproduct mounding up, and that was the seeds, and they were rotting, and they didn't know what to do with all these seeds. And then they came up with an idea, let's make oil out of them. The first oil was dark and smelly and used on machinery to lubricate it. And then they said, well, we've still got a lot of seeds and a lot of oil, so let's refine it more. And maybe we can make a cooking oil out of it, which they did. So you know now about the refining process. Um, Many steps to get it to a clear, odorless, tasteless oil. But they rolled it out, and that was early in the 1900s. But it was a very small market. Most of the people in America were using coconut oil for cooking. And of course, beef tallow and lard and butter. Those were the traditional fats and oils. And of course, olive oil. Olive oil has been with us for centuries. It goes way back in time. But that was what was used. And then came the war, World War II. Now this oil is used on aircraft in the war and ships, lubricating machinery, and the coconut oil. And then there's a small little cooking oil market, but it's not much. But the ships couldn't get through the waters during the war carrying the tropical oils, primarily coconut oil. So the manufacturer saw a great opportunity and stepped up production and rolled out these new modern oils with great slick ads. Modern, healthy, and can sit on your shelf without refrigeration. Right after the war, something else showed up. Heart attack. People were dropping over, and the Americans were scared, and the government got involved, and the doctors and the scientists and the physicists, and they did autopsies, and they found mounds, we know them as plaque, collecting in the arteries, and they looked at what's in that, and fat and cholesterol were in there, and calcium and other things. And oh, it must be the fat and cholesterol. A few little voices said, wait a minute, we've always cooked with this. It's been around for centuries. Why would this suddenly, why would butter and eggs and tallow and lard and beef suddenly, out of the blue, cause heart attacks? But very few people looked at what was underneath that plaque, lesions. So, what caused the lesions? Now we know, I quoted one cardiologist a lot, and the truth about seed oils is seed oils cause those lesions. And he said it's like somebody taking a stiff bristle brush and scrubbing that little delicate artery until it bleeds. Well, of course, a scab is going to form. We know it as plaque. If you did it to your hand, you scrubbed and scrubbed till it bled, a scab would form. What's in that scab? Cholesterol and some fat and other things. Well, so they blamed it on that. Out went the butter, out went the lard, out went the tallow, out went the red meat, dairy, cheese, all gone, eggs gone, anything that had cholesterol, fat in it, gone. And now the oil was considered heart healthy. It was not the same fat, not saturated fat, no cholesterol in it. Boom, this is the new answer for why we're getting heart attack and heart disease. Cookbook authors were hired to how to use these oils in your favorite recipes, and the new day dawned. We are on the lipid hypothesis era. Fat is the villain, fat is gone, oil is in, these seed oils are in. And did heart disease and heart attack go down? No. So you look at a bar graph before these rolled out big time on the market, and heart disease, heart attack is like this. And then it's like this. And then it keeps growing. And what is the number one killer today? Heart disease. We have not solved our problem. We are still in dire straits. And I call these oils the silent killers. They are also connected to cancer, diabetes, metabolic issues. They create oxidative stress in the brain as well as throughout the body. So they're connected to Alzheimer's, dementia, emotional problems, directly linked studies. In chapter 2, we've got the studies, the science, all noted. Emotions, anxiety, depression, aggression, even homicide. Good grief. Are we better? We are worse. And what about obesity and overweight? 70% of our nation is either overweight or obese, linked to seed oils. Now, that isn't the only thing, and I have to be an honest nutritionist. Sugar plays a role too, and sugar rolled out about the same time with jingles and all sorts of things. And smoking rolled out about the same time too. Smoke camels, they said. More doctors smoke camels than any other cigarette. It's great for digestion and calming yourself down. Good grief. So we have a perfect storm, but that doesn't take seed oils off the hook, that there are some other bad contributors too, because they are right out there in the lead, contributing to all these problems in our bodies.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. I think it's pretty safe to say, and I would love your opinion on this, that, that the cholesterol situation, that myth alone is, I think, one of the biggest myths in medicine today. What do you have to say about that?
Huge myth. So I've looked at all sorts of studies. When I wrote my book, The Coconut Diet, and that was about 20 years ago, it helped bring coconut oil back to the West. I really started studying this. And there are lots and lots of studies on cholesterol. The studies that I think are the most revealing are looking at the people that died of heart disease and where was their cholesterol. And many studies have found about the same amount had low cholesterol as high. The conclusion of the scientists, no correlation to cholesterol. Our bodies make cholesterol. We have to have cholesterol. Huge amounts of cholesterol are in your brain. Fat, water, that's mostly your brain. Cholesterol, fat, water. And so what on earth we're trying to lower our fat and but we're consuming the wrong fat. So the whole cholesterol myth is just cuckoo. It was never considered an issue until all of this started, all of this lipid hypothesis and then the cholesterol lowering drugs. And boy, now it's here to stay. And the numbers of what's too high keep going down and down and down.
Yes.
It used to be 280 was not even a big deal for older people. It's like, yikes, no, your cholesterol's way out of range. You got to take these drugs. Now you got to be below 200. That was never the case before. Never, ever. 240 for a lot of people. Look back on charts was considered normal and good. But what is driving us? The dollar sign everywhere you look.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting because I think my cholesterol is somewhere between 240 and 250. And I think when I was sharing with someone, what it was, they were like, oh my gosh, that's so high. I go, no, it's not. I
No.
said, no, it's not. And I actually had, a doctor read it and she even said, she goes, I'm really not that worried about that. And I go, good. I'm glad to hear that because neither am I. Neither am I. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because and I think a lot of listeners know this, and don't quote me because I'm not sure where it is on the list. I know for sure it's probably in like the top 6 to 7, but along at the same time, statins are one of the biggest marketed and used drugs in this country. And
Yes.
I probably would fall over. I think I know, but I feel like I don't even want to know because it's probably worse than I think. Um, I I can't even imagine the number of people who are taking statins who do not need to be on them, which
Mm,
is probably most people.
most. Yes, I so agree. And younger people are being prescribed them, which is so concerning to me because it interferes with CoQ10. Of course, you see all the ads on TV. Well, get the CoQ10 because, you're on a statin drug and it interferes with it. And oh my goodness. Uh, what we need to be on is a whole foods diet. And so many people I've worked with that were concerned about their higher level of cholesterol did a liver cleanse. Cholesterol's made in the liver. Their cholesterol came down.
Yeah,
Go figure.
yeah,
Well, we should all do a liver cleanse at least once a year. We change the oil and the filter in our car. It's like the oil and filter in your car. Your liver filters everything. Do a liver cleanse.
that's
If
so
you're
true.
really if you're really concerned, your doctor's pressing you. Red rice yeast.
Mm,
Take that. But and juice there and vegetables and the fiber in the vegetables that binds to cholesterol and carries it out. But it's not cholesterol that is connected to heart disease, it's inflammation.
that's right.
And what should be measured is not the cholesterol. It should be histamine, LP, and little a in parentheses is what you would ask for. Is it CPA, CPR? CPR, I think it is. Don't quote me on that. But you need to have inflammation markers measured.
C
That,
reactive protein is probably what you're referring to.
yes, CRP.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. My brain just switched that
No.
one.
Oh, mine's on and off constantly. So no, don't apologize.
But get your not just histamine, but your inflammation markers measured. That is truth. And that cholesterol number, it's the whole big thing. Well, when they look at mine isn't low either. Mine's usually 220, 225, but my HDL, the really good stuff is way up there and they say that's skewing your big number, your general number. You're good. You're good to go. Your HDL is great. That's what we should be looking at is our good cholesterol up there. And then it's not even LDL by itself, it's oxidized LDL, inflamed stuff going on, oxidative stress in the body, oxidative LDL. That's what we should look at. And I don't know that there's probably a measurement, but they don't use it much. It's probably very costly.
Yeah, you know what? I just think that a lot of, and this is like, again, this is like a big can of worms to open, but I just, in my experience, I just don't think that most doctors, especially if you're going to a conventional medical doctor or, even a lot of cardiologists, they won't. And I had a very well known cardiologist come on this show, Dr. Jack Wolfson. And he even said, he was like, I don't even really pay attention to the numbers when they come back. Like, I don't even really, I have a totally different, thought process. But I
Mm,
think a lot of them are not testing particle size. Not a lot of them are just going off of these like very base,
mm,
like sort of like overhead numbers, and they're not testing, like I said, particle size. And then there's a few others, and I think that's a huge issue because it's like you're just scratching the surface. And you're not taking other factors of blood work into account. So, and again, like you mentioned the liver, which I absolutely love. Most people are under the impression, which I understand, like, we're not all called to be experts in health. Like, we need to be able to rely on the experts. And obviously,
mm.
that's been an issue because, there's a lot that's like in the way. But with liver, you can have a totally congested liver situation and nothing, absolutely nothing shows up on blood work because blood work is only a snapshot of what's going on. And I am actually a prime example of that. Having some like genetic issues with MTHFR and so forth, and like really kind of struggling in that area. Had, some stuff happen when I was young, big viral load. So like that's always been a challenge for me in a way. And just because like your enzymes come back quote unquote normal on your blood work doesn't necessarily mean your liver is optimally functioning. So, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you're nodding your head. So I would love for you to touch on that.
Oh, yes, we don't have definitive tests for liver health.
Right.
We have for liver disease. So if there's something really wrong, we have tests for fatty liver. Lots of people are getting that today. Younger and younger people, kids are getting fatty liver. It's all that sugar, corn syrup in particular,
Yeah.
high fructose corn syrup. But we have tests for liver disease, but we don't have tests for liver health, I call it. Is there just these things going on, smaller issues, but congestion in the liver, and we don't have those tests. So we're on our own. But what we can all do is a liver cleanse. It makes you feel better. It's not hard to do. You just have to set your mind to it and get yourself prepared, get your stuff lined up for what you're going to do that week. It's not hard. Take things like milk thistle, drink beet juice, eat lots of beets, make a beet salad. Beets are very liver cleansing, obviously. And I have a bunch of other things. I have a 30-day liver detox program. But that is going to turn your liver around. And you may notice amazing things happening after that. I had one lady that did a liver gallbladder cleanse and she had shoulder pain or right below her shoulder blade. Did the cleanse, gone, completely gone.
Yeah.
Digestive problems. So many people have noticed they've done the cleanse, liver gallbladder cleanse, digestive problems, totally gone. I did a liver cleanse one time and my sinuses just totally cleared up. And my dad had always said, well, sinus problems run in our family and you'll probably always have them. And I'm thinking, I don't think I want to always have this, but there's got to be an answer. and liver cleanse, and my sinuses cleared up. So, who would have thought of that? I've never read that, never seen it before, but obviously there is a connection. And why not? We are a whole person. All these things in our bodies are connected in some way. But boy, there was some direct connection for me with my sinuses and my liver.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And yeah, it's just, you go to a specialist or an ENT or whatever it is, and they're not gonna talk about this because that's just not how they're trained, you know. But histamine is when someone has a histamine issue, which is, directly connected to our sinuses in so many cases, not always, because histamine can be seen in other ways and the body can express symptoms differently. But that's all liver, right? It's all
Mm,
liver. And then in terms of digestion, yeah, I mean, I've learned that so much with my own health. I've even learned that with my dog's health. It's like when there's something off, it's like I initially think, okay, what's going on with like
mhm,
their liver, their gallbladder, their pancreas?
mhm,
Something recently just it has been taking place with one of my dogs, and that's the area I'm actually supporting the most, even though it's digestive. I'm looking at pancreas, I'm looking at liver support because
mhm.
it's all interconnected, and I think that we want to isolate. And this is, like I said, this is another beat the dead horse conversation on this show, but we want to isolate because our brains register that as easier. But the reality is that how are we going to isolate a whole person when the whole entire person is it's just like it's a whole system. It's like going to a podiatrist and not taking into consideration that your feet are directly connected to your knee, which is connected to your hip. It doesn't make any sense to me, right?
Oh, it doesn't to me either. And we're so compartmentalized. I'm not just a brain or a foot, like you say, or a liver or a pancreas. I'm a whole person, and it all works together. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about making changes. Like getting rid of the seed oils or eating more whole foods and getting rid of the junk. It's treating your whole person from brain to foot. You'll be surprised what starts getting better. I had one young woman that came to me, said she'd had migraine headaches, young mom, for years and years, couldn't get rid of them. Cut out seed oils as much as she could. I don't know that we can ever get rid of all of them. Her headaches went away and they've never been back.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. You just said something that sparked a thought in me, which is I don't know if we'll ever get rid of them. And I don't think that that's true because we have to live life, And I was going to bring this up towards the end of the conversation, but this is an opportunity now. And it's like, you know, w- we need to experience community. We need to go out to dinner with friends and family and all of the things. And I think there's this other part of the conversation, which I've had on the show before, as well. And I've had, discussions with guests, but it's also just about becoming resilient.
Mm,
And a lot of people are deficient in nutrients. And so the resiliency is low. And I personally take vitamin E, like a really good vitamin E too, especially when I go out because it directly impacts the intake, right? In how your body metabolizes the PUFAs and with lipid peroxidation and all that. And so I'm pretty good about it. I'm really good about taking it for the most part all the time because I've seen the effects. But what do you have to say about like sort of the resiliency portion of this conversation and how people can, they still got to live, but it's about becoming resilient and, like you said, doing other things to where you can go out and enjoy something. Because again, it's not about fear. Fear it'll take you down faster than any seed oil ever will.
yes, it will. I so agree with you. And now that you said that, I'm thinking of last night. My husband and I went out to dinner with a friend of ours whose wife is out of town and he's alone. And it's like, let's get together, and have some fun. And there's a lot of joy in being with friends. And I ordered a main course salad and I'm thinking, yeah, there's polyunsaturated fats in here. I know there are, but resiliency is the key. Get yourself healthy and strong, build up your immune system. I love the fact that you take a really good vitamin E before you go out. I always load up on vitamin C too because I just seem to need a lot of extra. But get yourself to the place where, yeah, you can have a meal, you can go out, and you're not going to just crash and burn and feel horrible because you ate something that you don't normally eat. But you can do better when you eat out. I mean, I don't order fish and chips. I don't order fried foods. I don't order fried chicken. My husband does often get something that will have fries with it, and I can't resist. I have two or three or four. But I don't eat them often. It's rare. And, it's that once in a while, it's not going to do us in. It's what we do most of the time. So, most of the time, we're going to be as good as we can be. And then we're just going to go and enjoy life and be with our friends and have our trips. And it's very hard when you're on a vacation to be really, really strict. You just can't. You're you're out and about and you go with what you've got and do the best with that. But there's joy in the journey, and that is part of it. And you said that if we're in fear, that is a powerful stressor. And all of those nasty chemicals get released in our body. The stress of things, the cortisol goes up, adrenaline goes up, and those are just so bad right at the cellular level. What we want are the good endorphins. We want the joy. And when you've got control in your life, I was saying this the other day about talking about cancer, even, and I was on a show talking about what you do for people with cancer. Well, if you feel like you have some control in your life, like I can control what I eat, this can help me. There's joy in that journey. You feel like you're empowered. And that's what I know you want, I want, is to power all of you to take control in your life. And then you can enjoy it a whole lot more.
Ah, that's, I just love that. Is just probably going to be my favorite part of the conversation. And I'm so glad that you went there because it is so true. And as I've sort of shared on this show in the past, especially over the last year, I've struggled a lot myself as a host with bringing information to the table in the public and making sure that it was not producing fear in people. It's been really important for me to try to project messages through the guests, right? Because I'm really just the bridge, and I'm elevating voices. But in that elevation, in that bridging, right, I have a responsibility. And I feel like it has been almost like a burden on my heart to make sure that that fear is not the driving factor and the driving force here, because awareness is so different, and it's up to us to understand and know how to balance the information and do what we can in the season that we're in with the resources that we have and then some, and then take it all and then just live, right? Because and it's not an excuse, right? Because like the whole, you hear people say, well, everything in moderation. It's like, well, that's a cop out in so many ways.
It is.
It is such a cop out. I've written on that as well. Like it really is. It's an excuse for people to justify their actions most of the time, but there has to be some leeway. And so I just love that you went into that, because joy and community and hope and faith and all of that is just as powerful, if not more, as taking vitamin E or C or doing a liver cleanse or whatever, because our emotional states are so much more connected to our overall health and well being than we even know, even when we think we know. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. My husband and I say together we make a whole brain and a whole team, because he's the spirit and soul. He's a priest and a psychotherapist, and I'm the nutritionist. We work together, and we have had many, many health and wellness retreats where we have a week to work hands-on with people. And he takes people through the emotional and mental detox and the forgiveness and the de-stress and how to live from a happy heart. And then I do the raw foods and the juices and the detox and the lectures, but they get to eat it and drink it that week as well. We have seen the most powerful, unbelievable things happen right before our eyes. People getting out of wheelchairs and walking, cancer with lumps like on the back, just shrinking and gone. Like, oh, I was there a few days ago and now it's not there anymore. A rotator cuff just healing right on the spot. people saying to my husband, I've struggled with this emotional issue for 20 years. I went to your class on letting go. Could I let it go? Would I let it go? And when? Boom, it's gone. It's gone. I mean, I am such a believer in the power of getting rid of toxic emotions, toxic thoughts, toxic unforgiveness. It is like drinking poison, expecting the other guy to die. We get rid of all of this nasty stuff. Oh man, our bodies can heal. It says, yeah, give me that juice now. I can just really, really work with my cells and heal. And we are so connected. That mind, body, spirit, powerful connection. I can't even say enough about it. My husband and I used to go around and around because I'd say it's nutrition. It's just all nutrition for this. And he'd say, no, it's all stress and emotions and blah. And then we came to it's yes, it's
Oh,
all of the above. It's everything together. And we are whole people. And now he teaches too about you get rid of this, but what do you replace it with? Because you have to replace it with something. We never have a void. Joy, happiness, trust, faith, hope for your journey, like you were talking about, and enjoying life and being with community. That is so powerful. Bringing it all together. It's not like, well, I'm just going to do this now because you said emotions. I'm just going to, no, you got to do this too. It's the nutrition, it's everything coming together. It's going to make you healthier than you've ever been.
yeah. Wow. And I'm on that journey too. Like I don't sit here on the, as I often say, I don't sit here on the top of the mountain or on the other side of the, like I'm still walking that journey myself. And so I have all the understanding and the grace for everyone listening that feels almost convicted by this part of the conversation because I also do, right? And I've walked such an interesting, very, very tumultuous journey through the last couple decades that I thought was sort of over several years ago, and then I got hit even harder.
Mm,
But there was more to learn. There was more to unlearn. There was more to dig out, dig up, and there more to heal, And so as much as we hate that sometimes as humans,
mm,
it's not I always say, and again, like I'm a believer, right? So I always say, like, God's not just interested in healing your physical body, He's interested in healing all of you. And so, as
mm.
much as you want just like the physical symptoms to go away, and I'm preaching to the choir here, you have to understand that there's more to that prayer request. And
Oh,
so, yeah,
yes.
yeah, and it's hard, right? As human beings, we're very focused on, what can we do to get the quickest, most instant result with the least amount of work. And, it's the places that you don't want to look that are often, that's often where you need to look because that's where the work is. And so, I as I say it, I'm not just speaking to, you or the audience. I'm speaking to me because I know how it feels, I know how it is, and I know how tough it can be. But yes, just like a huge yes with every single thing that you said, because it is just at this point in the game with all the information that I think that's at our fingertips. Like we would be fools to shun the fact that our health is not that it's isolated to only the physical body and that there's not the components of our emotional state, our mental state, our spiritual state. That's just and if people hear it over and over and over and they still turned they shun it, or that's it's their choice. But and hopefully things will unravel on their journey as well, and they will come to see that there are other places to look. But it takes time.
It
It takes time.
does.
Yeah.
Yes. Prayer, time, wisdom,
Yeah.
and a commitment to
Yeah.
change.
Well,
Well,
oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go, no, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't want to leave people wondering what can I cook with? So
Yeah,
I'm back to the
yes. Well,
practical.
that was gonna be a question of mine before we move forward. But yeah, please let us know in terms of like solutions and replacements, or I should say not even replacements, but like the solid, things that we should be using just, all the time.
Yes, our choices, our good choices each day.
Yeah, yeah,
We do have a lot of power over what oils and fats we choose to buy to cook with.
yeah,
We can, it's easy. We can get olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil. Sesame oil is fine. Get the cold press for sure. It's more fragile. There are two nut oils, almond and macadamia nut. Those are a little more expensive, but some people like those as well. Ghee, which is clarified butter or oil of butter, and then butter. If you're going to, if you want some animal fat, butter though has a lower smoke point, and some of the others do. I've got smoke point, the list of smoke points in the book, so there's a chart there that you can look things up. And then beef tallow is another one, and we're finding that more and more on the market. I never saw it before. It's just in the last couple of years, boom, there it is, even at the big box stores. So times are changing, and we have a lot of choices. The prices have come down. So get avocado oil if you like to do high heat cooking. Some people like a wok or stir fry situation. Avocado oil is your choice because it's got a very high smoke point. The rest are more like medium to low, and because you don't want your oil to smoke. How many times have you put it on? You know, you're melting it on the stove. You turn around quickly to do something. You come back, boom, it's smoking. What's happening? Your oil is breaking down into a toxic byproduct, and you don't want that. So we want to know smoke point. We want to keep our temperatures a little lower for most of our oils and fats, and that is your list. And then check out the smoke point chart in my book, The Truth About Seed Oils, and that'll help you get on your journey. And then I also have a wise shopping uh, chapter in the back of how to make the right choices, what to choose, what to look for, and different products. And you can also get Seed Oil Scout app on my website, juiceladyinfo.com. You just click on the book picture, it'll take you to the landing page, and you can sign up for a free trial. Well, Seed Oil Scout app has a scanner. So you just point it at any barcode, and it'll give you what's in there, if there's seed oil or other nasty stuff. And it also has a little map, and it'll show you restaurants in your area that are seed oil free. And some of them you may never have dreamed are. Like a number of Italian restaurants use only olive oil. They don't use other oils. And they import their flour and their cheese from Italy, which is very different from US, sprayed with
Glyphosate.
glyphosate and other unnatural pesticides, nasty stuff. So you take a look at that. It's very surprising. I pulled up my map and I thought, wow, there's my favorite restaurant, the one that's 3 minutes from our house, the Italian restaurant. And there were quite a few in my area that were seed oil free. And I thought, this is really encouraging.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great resource. I'm very aware of Seed Oil Scout, and yeah, they've done some really great work with just providing info and resources. And your book, though, sounds like a resource that would just be so handy to have really in everybody's kitchen and everybody's house, because especially with like the charts and stuff, I find that to be really, really helpful, because sometimes we just pull things, myself included, right? We just pull things off the shelf and we go, oh, gotta make this real quick. But we don't even think about like, oh, like if this oil were to get, and again, it's not about making things complicated. This is actually about simplifying it, but you don't want your olive oil, for example, to be like smoking, because then you're turning something really good into something that's not so good.
That's right. Absolutely. So in our book too, we've got over 50 recipes with the different oils and fats and where they fit and the flavors of them and how to use them in recipes. And they're yummy recipes. So I hope you enjoy and try some of those. And I really encourage everybody listening to try making some dishes at home. So many things are not complicated. They're easy, they're fast. And a lot of us have gotten accustomed to fast things out of boxes and packages, or order, a takeout and bring it home. But our best op is to make it ourselves as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. I like that you brought that up just now, because as we sort of, we wind down a little bit, I would love for you to touch uh, on this exact issue, which I think, and again, it's not about having to cook every single meal or anything like that, but there is something to be said about not just cooking at home and not just knowing like where your food comes from, but also like stewardship of food, and how we have sort of lost the sacredness of food as the world has continued to tick on. And, you know, whatever you would like to give us, because it's a really big conversation. It's probably a whole podcast episode in and of itself. But like in terms of farming and stress, the stress in animals and how that sort of emotionally converts over to us, and just sort of the loss of, gosh, there's a word I'm looking for right now, kind of the loss of reverence, I think would
Mhm.
be the term, around eating in general, and eating at home, and like just, yeah, the sacredness of mealtime. However you would like to take this, because we did touch on it off air and I really loved talking to you about this. So I would love for you to just share whatever you would like for our listeners, because I think it's important.
I wrote about this in The Truth About Seed Oils, that what we're talking about really is a moral and spiritual issue. And why is that? We have, just as you said, lost our way. So much of our food now is not food. It's stuff prepared in factories and spun out with a bunch of chemicals and flavorings, and purposely created to addict you with the right amount of sugar and salt. There's nothing spiritual about that. There's nothing sacred. Um, and there's nothing holistic about it. So where were we 100 years ago or more? Food was considered sacred. People honored the earth. They give thanks for the sun and the rain, and the soil. And people bless their food. Oftentimes you'll see people put their hands over their food, say a blessing. We've so lost our way on all of that, from the real food that we pull out of the soil and that grew because God gave us sun and water and minerals in the soil. And now we rip open a package or a box, and there's nothing beautiful or sacred that I see in that. We've so lost our way. Our Thanksgiving, so often, most people, um, it seems, in reading about historical things, gave thanks for their food and realized they knew where it came from. A lot of people grew it or they bought it from farmers. And now people often don't know where what they're eating comes from at all. And they never will. It's a bunch of chemicals in there, and other stuff, fillers and additives. And so getting back to real whole food and blessing our food and being thankful for what we've been given and getting our hands into our food. There's just something very holistic about all of that, and sacred. And we need to return to that place of sacredness and respect and thankfulness for food, for real whole food, and for the animals. I'm glad you brought that up, because it isn't just the vegetables and the things grown in the earth. The poor, stressed out animals in convention farms. Oh my goodness. Every once in a while, something will pop up on my Instagram, and it's like these poor animals in factories, and I can't even look because I don't know what to do about it. So I just have to scroll on because it breaks my heart. They're so stressed out, all those stress chemicals, and they're not treated well. And we're eating that. We're eating the flesh of all of these stress chemicals in there. So, what is that doing to us? Not to mention what it did to them. And they're emotional little creatures. I love the Instagram reels where they're showing chickens or pigs or cows and how loving they are, and the emotions that they have, and they're sweet. And somebody will call her chicken, and the chicken will run clear across the farm and jump into their arms. And I'm thinking, that's a chicken? I never knew that a chicken had attachment like that to a human being. But all of God's creation has emotion and is harmed and hurt when they're abused. So that's a huge story in itself. Where do we even start? But getting pasture grazed and pasture fed is a great start
Yeah.
for making some changes there.
Yeah, because thank you for that. And because it is not about, this is not a vegan, vegetarian vegan discussion. Okay. We're
Yeah.
not saying like, you need to know, I mean, I eat animal protein. I think you do as well.
You.
It's not about that, but it is about, being again aware of what actually does happen, because people just want to put things out of their mind because whatever they don't see is not quote unquote happening.
Hmm.
But how real that energy exchange is when you are unfortunately receiving meat or poultry or even fish or whatever uh, from conventional farming practices, and like you said, you're eating the flesh of a severely abused animal,
Hmm.
and there is an energy exchange whether we want to believe that or not. It actually doesn't matter, because the truth is it does matter,
Hmm.
and so I think it is important. And again, like, I get it. I feel like I say the same things over and over again. Like, people are there's things to be taken into consideration today, like, people can only do the best that they can do. There's budgets and considerations and all of that, and um, myself included. But I think that sometimes it is worth thinking about how we can prioritize these very important things. And I
Hmm.
always give the example, like, if you're going through Starbucks every single day and you're spending, you know, $7 or $8 on a coffee, like, maybe make the coffee at home so you can put that in those few dollars towards maybe
Yeah.
buying a little bit better quality meat. That's just an example, you
Yeah.
know. It's just an example. And again, it's not I don't take those factors out, that people have different circumstances and budgets, and life is tough today. And so, we can do the best we can, but it is worth the mention, because if your health is important, and if you're listening to this show, I assume that you think that it is. These things, I think, are worth bringing to the table to some degree.
They are. And I say it all starts with awareness, um, that we need to learn and be aware of what we're doing. And even if you can't do it all, you can do some. Just what you said, you can start cutting corners here so you can do something better over here. And maybe you're saying, well, this is a few cents more. I could do it, but I don't want to spend it. Listen, if you spend a few cents more here, you're not going to pay at the back end. When you're sick and you're getting some over-the-counter stuff for whatever, or you're getting a copay prescription because you're sick, or you're losing work days and maybe you're not paid for that. I don't know. Or maybe you are, but you're still, it's costing you big time at the back end. So let's spend a few more pennies at the front end if we possibly can and prevent disease, even those colds and flus.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, right? Because we're human as a collective. We don't necessarily think about the broad picture, right? We think about what's in front of us and what makes sense at the time and what we can do at the time, and we're often not zooming out. But to your point, I think it's important that we just take a beat and we step back. And a lot, what I often say is, if it's a priority, you'll figure out a way,
You
and
will.
usually a way will be made for you, if it really is a priority, and if it really is in alignment with the way that we are supposed to be living. A way will be made for you. I am so confident about that, and I've seen that happen in my own life. And so, again, I think it's worth the mention. And you said it yourself, this could be an entire podcast episode, just the cultures that honor food outside of the US, and how different it is, and how they treat not only animals, but the land and the Thanksgiving, and all of that. It's such an interesting discussion, but it really points to just how far this country has fallen from what is good on earth.
Mm. It does. I'm hopeful though that we're on a journey back. I'm seeing it on TikTok and Instagram, and Gen Zs, the younger people, are really waking up and aware, much more aware than other generations have been. They're the no seed oil movement. And a number of my friends have said, yes, my young early 20 something or late teen is saying, Mom, you can't buy that oil. It's a bad seed oil. And they're educating their parents. It's so interesting. This gives me hope that there is a generation emerging, and of course there are the rest of us too that are waking up, that there is a movement emerging that is waking people up to truth. And the more that we wake up and vote with our wallets, that's how we will see change, because if they can't sell it, they're not going to make it anymore, and they're going to find a way to do better. because we demand better. So we are powerful. As a community, we are a powerful voice with voting with our dollars and doing the best that we can. And I'm excited for that, really.
Good. You know what? I was gonna ask you sort of a similar question, but you just sort of answered it, and I think you're right. I don't think that I don't think the government is gonna come and solve any of this. I don't think that, your officials that are gonna come in and save the day. It's really a grassroots movement because
Mhm.
it's always been the people. It has never been the conglomerates. It has never been the government. It has never been the big companies that have made positive change for the most part. It's always been the people. And so, we can all do something to send a message, big or small. And people have different callings on their lives, but just taking care of your own self and your own family and making better decisions in your own home is a beautiful start, you know?
A beautiful start. Yes, and um, I never answered your one question back about Crisco, but
Yeah.
look at what the people did regarding Crisco. You can hardly find it. I was looking at just a regular grocery store the other day to see what Crisco looked like there, and there were a couple cans on the bottom shelf, stuffed back in the corner. I thought, what a change we have made as the truth about trans fats in Crisco rolled out to the American public. Prior to that, it was like everybody was making their pie crust with Crisco. My grandmother did. Everybody's using Crisco for their fried chicken. And now you don't see it much at all in the grocery stores. It's a very small market there. I did look it up though. I thought maybe their sales are way down. No, they're still way up. You know who's buying it? Food
Restaurants.
manufacturers and restaurants because they get it cheap, that fluffy white fluffed up oil, and they paint it on things that are fried and make it look juicier in the end. So again, just speaking up and not ordering stuff and asking restaurants and going to ones that don't use it. But we did make a change, and I thought, wow, good for us because people are very aware and they're not, you can see, not many people are buying from the grocery store anyway, they're the Crisco. So we did make a change. And, we made a change with coconut oil. You could hardly find it in the early 2000s, little shelves,
Yeah.
I mean, little jars on shelves in health food stores, and they were more expensive. Now coconut oil is everywhere. We brought it back. We told the true story. My book, The Coconut Diet, and several others wrote about it at the same time, opened up America's eyes, and it came back. So we can do it. We can make some other changes as well.
It's so funny that you said that about how you couldn't find, you can only find it in select stores because it is so true. I was kind of I don't know the word to use, but it's like a real intentional eater very young because I had health challenges very young, like yourself. And I remember just going to one store in my hometown that sold coconut oil because you couldn't really find it. And this was like in the 2000s, like the early to mid
Mhm.
2000s. And I would always, it was such a like, it was like a crunchy store, which is
Mhm.
still, it's more popular now than ever. But it's just so funny because I haven't thought about that in a long time. And it's like I would have to go to one store to find my coconut oil because I wasn't using these other, and I was using it for other reasons as well. But yeah, I was baking with it and everything. But it's just hilarious because I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yes, and now isn't it great because you can go to any store and
Yeah.
there's coconut oil.
Yeah.
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 So things
Wonderful.
things do change so much. I want to get in and I don't want to forget to talk about the omega-6 fatty acid to omega-3 fatty acid ratio and how we've ended up in a great imbalance in most bodies in America. And that is because these polyunsaturated oils are dominant in omega-6. And this is the argument that is out in the marketplace right now. You need omega-6 fatty acids. These oils, these seed oils are rich in omega-6 fatty acids. All of that is true. What they're not telling you is that people are eating these oils breakfast, lunch, and dinner, most people, and don't even know it. What is imbalanced in the body? The ratio. We should be a 4 to 1 to 1 to 1, omega 6 to omega 3 fatty acids. We're more like a 15 to 21 or 2 to one. I recently was talking with a friend who's very much into health and promotes all sorts of homeopathic products and does tries to do the right thing. And he was tested. He had somebody test him for his omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. He was 21 to 1. I said, how in the world
Whoa.
did that happen? Okay, so he went to work and he brought it down to a 3 to 1. You know,
Wow.
we get so out of balance, but what does that do? Creates inflammation. Proven. You've got that discrepancy, that out of balance, it creates inflammation. What's at the root of all disease? Inflammation. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, all the stuff I had, dementia, Alzheimer's, the emotional stuff. There's always inflammation there in the body. So we want to bring that down. So you want to bring your omega 3s up. What's rich in omega 3s? Hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil, walnuts, walnut oil. That's only a cold oil. You can't heat that. It's very fragile. And walnut milk. I've been making walnut milk, homemade walnut milk. It's really delicious, easy to do. And you're getting omega-3 fatty acids. And of course, your wild caught cold water fatty fish like salmon or sardines. Those are the dominant sources, little traces here and there of whole foods, but uh, not too many people are eating much of what I just named. But we want to bring up our omega 3s. I take a tablespoon of Barlean's flax oil at night before I go to bed just to ensure I'm getting some of these good fatty acids in my body every day. A lot of people like fish oil, people take fish oil. Some people take other like hemp or but we need to get these good fatty acids in our body. And you'll notice when you do that, not only is it heart healthy and brain healthy, and your brain is thankful and it may work a little better, but it shows up on your skin and your hair,
I was
shiny.
just thinking that. I was actually going to say that about you. It was like you have beautiful skin. And for those of you guys who are not watching, Cherie has beautiful skin. Her hair is shiny. I mean, you can clearly tell that she takes care of her insides because it's a reflection. And when you said I take a shot, a little shot or a tablespoon or a teaspoon
Yeah.
of flax oil, I was like, I can tell. Like I can tell because it really is a reflection. And I agree with you when I think that I think people assume that they probably get enough omega-3, but with the modern American diet, the sixes are just kind of taking over. And I was
Mhm.
actually really surprised when I got in fact, I'm due to go back in a couple of weeks to check it to see if it's changed. But I was a little out of balance with my omega-3 omega-6 ratio, which I was surprised about.
Mm.
And so I've taken some steps to sort of adjust things here and there, and I'm interested to see how that pans out once I retest.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that there's this whole like nuanced conversation about fish oil too, like how it can be quite unstable. And
Hmm.
I'm always, with the exception of cod liver oil, like a really good quality source of cod
Hmm.
liver oil, which that's again, we've discussed some of that here and, you know, the benefits of retinol and vitamin A and vitamin D and how cod liver oil is different from fish oil. But I always say, like, you know what, eat the food. Like,
Yes.
eat the food if you can, you know, like just eat the food, try to do your best with and not engorge yourself. Like we're not talking about, you know, mass plates of this stuff. It's just have intentionality when you're shopping and incorporate some of this stuff in your week.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned cod liver oil because I every once in a while switch off with a really high quality cod liver oil and then I go back to flax oil. But both are great. But yes, eat the food.
Eat the food.
I'm with you. Eat whole food.
Yeah. Yeah,
Eat whole
and I
food.
like your walnut milk. I feel like I don't know if I've ever made walnut milk before. There a few years ago I was doing the cashew milk because it was so
Mm,
creamy and delicious and I was
yes.
doing that. But I'm gonna have to try the walnut milk. I can imagine that would probably taste absolutely delicious, even with like a little bit of maple syrup or cinnamon. Oh my goodness, that
Mhm.
sounds divine.
It's wonderful. Yes, I've made that often for my husband. He likes to pour it in his coffee, like some kind of plant-based milk in his coffee, and so I've made it often. And I feel so good about it because it's rich in omega-3 fatty acids. And so I feel like, one step forward in getting that balance in the body. I want to talk about cell membranes for just a moment and the
Yeah,
fat
please.
that
Please.
surrounds your cell membrane.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right fats in your diet, which most people don't, they have the wrong fats. They have the polyunsaturated fatty acids. Um, that is not what the body wants to use to replace that membrane. Cells are always turning over, things are always happening in the body, and replacement is always happening. If you don't have the right fats, right fatty acids, it's going to choose what it's got. It's going to choose the inferior fatty acid, put it in that cell membrane. Now you've got structural instability because it's not the right fat that belongs in there. It's like if you were doing a replacement on your home and there was a certain kind of board that you needed, which we just had some done for near our roof. What if they put the wrong kind of board in there and the wrong size, but it was all they had? Well, structurally, something's not going to be right. Something's going to go wrong. Structurally, things go wrong in our bodies because we don't have the right fats. Around the heart are saturated fats, C16 and C18, that the body draws on in times of stress. What if you don't have the right fats to replenish that fat around your heart? And now you've got stress. How many times have I heard somebody relate a story to me? A friend of a friend out jogging. He was 40 something. He was on a low fat diet. I've heard this over and over, and dropped over dead of a heart attack while he's jogging. And it's like, what happened? Everybody's asking. Well, I don't know, but I wonder what kind of fat, if it's on a low fat diet, what kind of fat was getting replenished around the heart, which the heart needs a certain type of fat. So we need these good fats and oils for multiple reasons, but structurally, we want them. We want good, strong cell membranes. We want things to be structurally correct. And that's why switching out our oils and our fats is extremely important. And the ones that got a bad rap, you can have some butter. I don't need a lot of butter, but I have a little bit of butter once in a while. Yeah, you can have some. I think you and I talked about
We
it. My
did.
grandmother, she loved a little bread with her butter.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how I
me.
grew up.
That's me. That's me. In fact, I was cracking up because this morning, just a side note, just obviously just a couple hours before we went on to record this, I was laughing thinking about the seed oil conversation as I was covering my toast with butter, and I was like, you can't even see the toast, right? Because my butter was like, oh, and it's just my favorite food. But I'll tell you, I feel better eating butter than I ever. I mean, butter has made such a difference in my life, and it really is like my absolute favorite food on earth, I think.
Oh, I love butter. I
Yeah.
grew up on butter. My whole family loved butter. I don't eat as much of it now because I don't eat toast and things like that very much. But something we can all do when we eat out. If they serve you the whipped up butter, whipped with seed oil, and a lot of restaurants do, you can ask them if they could bring you some real butter as an exchange because you don't want that seed oil. That's just a subtle, small little thing. They may have the real butter, they may not. Most do. Most have a stash in the back. But it's going to start a conversation within that restaurant. The servers are going to start saying, "Hey, people don't want this butter. They want the real thing." It's going to start something going in America, so we can get that going easily.
That's a really great tip, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Alongside of this, I guess I'll just call it like cell integrity portion of the conversation because we don't often think that when they serve bread and butter, we just think it's butter. But in reality, a lot of times there are additions into that butter, and we would never know that, right? Because we just think like this tastes great, and it's different than
I know.
like if they're selling you, not selling, if they're bringing you like a truffle butter, that's all good, right? Like
It's
those things are
okay.
great, yeah,
Oh yeah.
but delicious. But
Mhm.
it's interesting to think about like these things that are hidden that we're just not aware of. And so why not ask? It's not, you're not being a
Mhm.
pill. It's just, it's just a small ask. And if they don't have it, they don't have it. But why
Right.
not? So great
Why
tip.
not?
Yeah.
You can tell when it's the whipped butter because I went out with a friend, my husband and I did the week before, and they served this little cup and it's all fluffy. And I stuck my fork in there. Yeah, it's very, very fluffy. It's not real butter. It's the whipped thing with seed oils. So you can tell when
Yeah.
they're serving you that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I'm so glad, and forgive me for not asking you earlier in the conversation about cell integrity because that's a huge talking point to this conversation, and so I'm so glad that you came back around and we discussed that. Uh,
Mhm.
as we, I kind of close here. I would love to give you an opportunity, I guess, to just beyond. I mean, you've given us so much, but beyond what we've discussed, if there is something that you would love to share with our listeners, whether it's um, just something that we haven't touched on from a physiological standpoint to something emotional or something having to do with, food being sacred, whatever it is, I would love for you to just talk about whatever you think that you like. If what I should say, what would you want people to be left with as we sort of end this? Because I think that there are so many things that we can discuss, but I think that you've given just a lot to think about, and in a beautiful way, in an awareness based way, without fear.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Well, I've always got so much, but I'm going to tell a story
Okay.
um, about a young woman I worked with that had MS. Excuse me. And she changed her diet, got rid of all the bad stuff, brought in all the good stuff, and got rid of her symptoms. So, conventional medicine will never say you're cured if you didn't do their program, but they said you've managed your symptoms. And she was doing so well at managing her symptoms. And then a relative came by with some wine and just persuaded her to drink this fabulous wine. And she didn't want to. And she kept saying no. Finally, she did. And some of those old symptoms just started popping up that afternoon. And it was like, oh, no, I was enjoying my health and feeling vibrant. And she said to me, I've come to nothing on earth tastes as good as good health. And that's what I leave you with. It may be a struggle. Your journey may not seem easy. It's worth it all because nothing tastes as good as good health.
Absolutely. Well said. And that's a great place to end. And I'll just echo that by, and this is so cliche because you hear people say this all the time in the health space and the health communities, but everything is important to you in life. All the things, right? The material things, the homes, the cars, the clothes, the vacations, all of that. And once your health is compromised, and I learned this at a very young age. And I don't say unfortunately, it is unfortunate, but it's just my path. And I think there's a purpose and a calling based on that. But once your health is compromised or is jeopardized in any way, you don't care about anything else. It
Yeah.
becomes none of that matters. Absolutely none of that matters. And so you're right. And it's not about being, like we talked about earlier, super extreme and this toxic fear and like you're not going to go out ever, or you've become super obsessive and like that's running your life. It's not about that. But making good choices. There was a guest, and I think I just mentioned this on another episode, but I had a guest one time that came on here, and he said something like, small or bit, how did he say it? He said something like, basically, the things that work don't have to be complicated. Like, the things that are effective, they they're often small choices. It's not
Yeah.
this huge overhaul, and it's just like small choice after small choice after small choice. And so it's not about like turning over your whole house or emptying out the whole pantry, or just it's not
Yeah.
about that. It's not about that because that creates so much stress and anxiety in and of itself. But if we just like I said earlier, take a beat and look at our lives and see what we can do and what kind of changes we can make one step at a time, it'll lead us to somewhere better than we are now. And that's a beautiful thing. And so there's always hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you. No, I've so enjoyed this conversation, and I would love for you to give everyone a little direction on where they can find you and your book. And I know it's available on Amazon because I was reading. Yep, there it
It's
is.
there
It's
on
beautiful too.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
then also social media links, like basically your offerings. And of course, all of this I will have in the show notes for people as well.
Come visit me at my website, juiceladyinfo.com. You'll see right on the homepage at the top a picture of the book. Just click that and it'll take you to the landing page. You can see the free gifts. I've mentioned some of the things now, but I've got a number of free gifts there and codes for discounts. Follow me on Instagram at Juice Lady Cherie, Cherie. I have a post every day and recipes and demonstrations. I show you how to make nut milk, juices. I have different posts on seed oils, all sorts of things going up all over. And then my newsletter with lots of tips and recipes. So you can get it all. It's all free and get your free ebook. And I would love to connect with you. So do join me at juiceladyinfo.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I will be subscribing to your newsletter because that sounds fantastic. And why not? Because I could always use some help. And I'm a very basic cook. Like I said, good things don't have to be complicated. But it's always really nice to be able to have some direction when you're just tired of what you're doing, what you're eating. And so I'm always interested in new ideas and stuff. So I'll definitely be checking all of that out. And thank you. Thank you so much. This has been, honestly, it's been inspiring for me too, just in little ways that I can tweak things in my daily life as I continue my own journey as well, because we are all a work in progress. I know my listeners know this about me already. I, by all means, like I said earlier, do not talk or sit in the seat from the top of the hill. I am walking my own path as well. And so there's always takeaways for me. And I have learned things and been inspired to tweak little things here and there in my own life. So I really, really appreciate you coming on. You've just been a light, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Ditto to everything you just said. I have too. And I'm on a journey too. I'm not there. And aren't we all? As long as we're breathing, though, we have great hope that things
Amen.
will be better tomorrow and we can learn the lessons we need to learn today so we can go to the next level.
Amen. Amen. That's a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much, Cherie. Again, it's been a pleasure. My friends, I will, as always, have all of Cherie's information in the show notes for you. If you need any help finding anything, don't hesitate to reach out either to me or Cherie. We would be happy to help you. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have a very blessed rest of your day, and I will see you on the next episode.